I always knew I'd be talking about a championship on Mile Y. A little different than what I. Yeah. Huskies win 76-69. They improved to 6-1 on the season. They beat Santa Clara, by the way. And they are your Acrisure Invitational champions. Raise the banner. I actually think this is somewhat of a big deal. We'll talk about it in a sec. Real quick, I just want to thank people who are watching these. They do not get massive views. To say they don't get massive views is the understatement of understatements. And I get it. It is, not what you know me for. Saying you know me is this if I'm some sort of famous person, but you know, it's not the most popular thing. But I'm passionate about the team and I'm super appreciative of anybody who checks out anything I do. So for those of you who are watching these videos, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate it. And if you like them, hit like. And if you think other people would like them, share them. And if you think you like them enough, hit subscribe. I really, really, really appreciate it. And again, hope everyone had a wonderful Thanksgiving. For those new to the channel, we always start with the opposite of the result. So in this case, we're going to talk about the negatives and then build into the positives. Another slow start. It's I got a little spoiled with that real strong run that they had in that first game of that tournament against a team name who is completely escaping me, Colorado State. There we go, Chris. It's a roster that's building cohesion. It's a roster that's building chemistry. Slow starts are going to happen. It'd be nice if they were over it a little bit at this point. With Big Ten play starts next week. That's crazy. This year has just flown by. Not the college basketball season, but just the overall year is what I mean there. But the fact that we are already into Big Ten play, the Huskies will play their very first ever Big Ten game next week. And I'm super excited to see how that goes. They're going to have to get off to better starts. They're going to have to be a better offensive unit at the beginning of games. You have to play like you did against Colorado State and not have the lull that they had as well. I'm asking them to play perfect basketball. I understand that. But you got to be better at the start of these games because you're going to play better opponents. Now, we'll talk about that in the positive in just a second. The only other negative I see here, free throw shooting still is not very good. But the biggest negative was Tyler Harris was just the shots didn't fall. And he was due to have a bad game. Like I waxed poetically about the guy. 1 for 7, not good. Against a better opponent. Again, we'll talk about Santa Clara in a second. Trouble. Real trouble. He contributed in other ways. He grabbed 6 rebounds. Doesn't have an assist, but I thought he was a guy who didn't make the ball stagnate. I think that made sense. He didn't have nearly his best game, not even close. We've seen him at his best. He's phenomenal. But the shots didn't fall. Now, we'll get into the positives in a second about why that's maybe a good thing. But first, let's thank Simply Seattle, the very best in Seattle sports gear. Awesome stuff for the Huskies, of course, but the Mariners, Seahawks, Kraken, Storm, Sounders. You can find it all at Simply Seattle, and they got their really cool original stuff. I love this shirt right here. This is my Kingdom shirt, or hoodie. I wear this a lot, more often than I probably should. I probably should get a second one from Simply Seattle. So this one, stays in good condition. But it's an awesome place. And use code MOLLYWOP15 to save 15% off of your order. MOLLYWHOP15. Great deal from great people. Link in the description. Thank you so much, Simply Seattle. Okay, I think there's a ton of positives that you can take from this. Number one, winning a tournament is cool. Yeah, it's a small tournament. Yeah, they didn't play anybody who's going to the NCAA tournament in these games. Be really surprised if any of these teams make it. But Santa Clara is not a bad basketball team. Predicted to finish third in the WCC behind St. Mary's and Gonzaga. You may have heard of those programs. Coming off a 20-win season, and you take a look at that 3-5 record, but they're better than that. And I thought this was their toughest opponent. I think Santa Clara can beat Nevada. And now Santa Clara already lost to Nevada. So I'm already talking myself back out of that a little bit, but they're as good as anybody that they're obviously just as good as UMass Lowell and some other ones. Come on, Chris. But hopefully you know what I'm trying to say. Santa Clara is a quality win. They will have a much better record than this by the time the end of the year comes around. This was a good opponent, and they beat them. And the cool thing is, they really were the better team for the overwhelming majority of the game. A slow start, as we talked about, but they were the better basketball team. And that was nice to see. It was the first time that I truly felt. Now, I knew they were better than UMass Lowell and stuff, but it's the first time I felt, and the eye test told me that this was the better college basketball team. So that was really nice to see. A bunch of guys playing pretty well in this one as well. Let's see where to start. We're obviously going to end with you know who. I thought Luis Courtwright played his best game as a Husky. 3 assists, gets a couple of steals, gets a block. Free throws, an issue. But I thought that was easily his best game as a Washington Husky. They're going to need more of that for sure. We talked about how Harris struggled shooting. Nice job by Brodenbach. Gave you 17 solid minutes, gives you 8 points off the bench. DJ Davis, that was nice to see. That was 13 points, 27 minutes, gave him that spark. And look, it's nice to have guys, even though they're struggling, as talented as DJ Davis and Mekhi Mason off the bench. And Mason, again, struggles to get the shots to fall. But it's nice to see you have talents like that when you compare that to previous Husky teams where as soon as they went to the bench, you just didn't feel confident whatsoever. And I'm not saying you should feel super confident in this bench, but it's certainly the most deep Huskies team that I can remember in a few years. Or not remember, but it's definitely the deepest team in a few years. I don't think that's a crazy hyperbolic statement. I also love, before we get into a couple other individuals, really 2, I love how Danny Sprinkle coached this game like it really mattered. Like he wanted to win this thing. He played a rotation that suggested that this was important to him and important for the team. And they got it done. It would have been a bit of a bummer if they didn't, because he did not coach this like an exhibition. And of course it's not. I'm not saying he coached it like they were playing in the Final Four either, but there was a sense of urgency. And I liked that. I really, I enjoy seeing stuff like that, mainly because I've been a fan of a sports team that hasn't shown senses of urgency at times. Yeah. So seeing that they put some importance on this was pretty cool. It was pretty cool to see. Okay. The 2 big things here. Zoom Diallo. Probably his best game. The 15 points, takes 9 shots. I love that he was 3rd on the team in shots. Now, Tyler Harris shots doesn't fall, so he doesn't play as much, or get as many shots off as and he only played 29 minutes as well. But I like seeing that. I like that there was some aggressiveness. He was good from the free throw line. He adds 5 rebounds. He gets a steal. He gets a block. And here's what I really love. 27 minutes from your freshman, 0 turnovers. Not a single turnover. And the Huskies took care of the basketball really well today. Only 8 turnovers. You're going to win a lot of games. And helps make up for shooting just 43% from the field, 65% from free throw, which is still not good enough, and 5 for 15 from 3. When you're not giving up possessions, I should say, it makes up for that a little bit. It makes up for that. And by the way, also, the defense in both of these games I thought was excellent for the Huskies. And you see the makings of a really good defensive team. They have really talented defensive players, and they've got length. They rotate well. They anticipate well. They're getting better at rotating in 3. Now, 10 of 24 for Santa Clara, some of those desperation stuff, but it's not elite. He'd prefer that percentage to be lower. looking for 8 for 24 there. But I do think they're getting a lot better in that regard, and their inside defense is phenomenal. And the crazy thing is, you're doing it without one of your best interior defenders. So, yeah, I think that the defense has been really good. But great is great. And just love. I know I just spent so much time talking about this dude, but I can't help it. He is Great Osobor is just a special college basketball player. And no, he doesn't have the best stats, but just watch the dude play. Just watch Great Osobor play and tell me that he's not one of the best players in college basketball. You can't, because of the way he impacts the game in so many different ways. And again, we talked about this in the semifinal win. He still isn't having some shots fall. They're going to fall. He is not going to be below 50% for the overwhelming majority of his games. I refuse to believe that. Refuse to. There's just too much talent, and he's too good of a finisher. And he's got too much size in the middle, too. But you watch what he does on the boards. You watch what he does as a passer, another 5 assists, another couple of steals. Phenomenal. Like, a lot of people talk about his NIL deal, and for good reason. And I think some people get the impression that it won't be worth it unless the Huskies make the tournament or go on this deep run. No, I totally disagree, because he's making the Huskies so much more watchable and enjoyable. And you can put a price tag on that, but that price tag is higher than what they're paying Great Osobor, in my personal opinion. You may feel differently. I don't. Well, I don't feel differently for myself. What a shock. I just get such a kick out of watching this guy play. And I just can't help but think that he's going to put together some absolute monster games in the Big Ten. Sure, the competition's going to be better. I think he's going to rise up to the competition. And some of that's based on watching him at Utah State, and a lot of it is based on just what I've watched over these first 7 games. 6 games. I didn't watch any of the Seattle Pacific one. He's just so good. And I hope you appreciate him, because it's easy to not appreciate the star player when the season doesn't go well. You know, we've seen it before. We saw CJ Wilcox put together a fantastic season that year that they weren't very good. You know, Spencer Hawes had a pretty darn special freshman season. We've seen individual greatness, Markelle Fultz. I hope you can still appreciate that. I know it's harder and you want to see the wins, but I hope you can still find a way to say, God, I'm so glad I get to watch this guy wear purple and gold. Because there just aren't very many talents like this. I know I'm talking about him like he's the best player in college basketball, and he's not. I'm certainly not talking about him like he's going to be the number 1 draft pick. He's probably not going to get drafted. But he is a special college basketball player, and he plays a style that I just really appreciate. And I'm not anti 3-pointer by any stretch of the imagination. I get it that, and it's not like he's taking a bunch of mid-range jump shots, there's something about the way he plays and the feel for the game he has that is just, man, I love it. I love it. And it's a great reminder of why I love this sport. There are a lot of people who don't like college basketball, folks. And I understand why. It can be a slog. The ends of games are just dreadful because of all the timeouts and all the fouls. But at its purest, it's one of the best sports on the planet. So they get the win. They get the tournament title. And next up, I believe on December 3rd, which I believe is a Tuesday. That's a lot of believes there. They will be taking on UCLA in Pauley Pavilion. I love that their first two Big Ten games are against Pac-12 teams, or former Pac-12 teams. Be great to get off to a good start in the conference. A split there actually I think would be pretty good. UCLA is 6-1 on the season. They just beat the ever-loving Tar out of Southern Utah. Tough, easily the best opponent they will have played. Not even close. But if they play like they did in stretches today, the way they played Santa Clara, they got a shot. They got a shot. Again, I appreciate you hitting like, subscribe, and I really appreciate everyone who watches these videos. And I know there's a very good chance that most of you tuned out by now. It's fine. It's fine. I'm fine talking to myself. But those of you who stick around, oh my gosh, do I ever appreciate you. We'll be back with more. Got a bunch of videos coming up. A new episode of Sports Sometimes coming up over the weekend. I cannot tell you how excited I am for this guest. But yeah, good win. And congrats to your champions, the Washington Huskies of the Acrisure Invitational. That wasn't very good.